as Sarah Fuller is about to put her right foot into a football.
He's got ability. Tight end throw to the right. Skoranek on the end around, and he will score.
ETN, another touchdown.
You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast featuring us, the Online Sports Guys. And today, guys, we got a full house. OSG J-Dub in the house, OSG Nelson here, Jay Wilkerson 16 here, OSG Phil here. We are the Online Sports Guys. And we might as well jump right into it on this holiday weekend, guys. Some breaking news. Derek Mason no longer the head coach at Vanderbilt. Surprised?
No.
I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, that it was this long and that you didn't just do it at the end of the season because, Todd Fitch, the OC, is going to be your interim. But, did you just finally hit the bottom, losing to Missouri 41-0? And, it's, honestly, for me, that's why did it take this long?
As a Tennessee fan, I'm remiss to point out the fact that Mason was the first Vanderbilt coach since the 20s or something like that to beat Tennessee in 3 consecutive games. So I'm not unhappy to see Mason go. But, there is that.
It's a little more toward Tennessee than it does Vanderbilt there, I believe.
And Derek Mason was the guy that had to replace James Franklin, and we all know Franklin and his success he had at Vanderbilt. He almost got that program to double-digit wins one year, which is an outstanding accomplishment. But now you wonder who will be interested in that position. And it is an SEC job. It's the toughest SEC job, bar none. And it's, I think you're gonna hear rumblings of maybe David Shaw at Stanford maybe making that move. It's an SEC job and it's a very similar program, and that's a name that probably be thrown around a little bit. But Pat Fitzgerald, I'm sure his name might be thrown around because they're going to be needing somebody with the kind of experience at the high academic institutions to be able to have some success at Vanderbilt.
All right, so then let me give you a couple here. Joe Rexrode over at The Athletic came out with a couple of names. One, Charlotte coach Will Healy, who's a Tennessee native.
Yeah, and former Austin Peay coach.
Right, and the other, Jamie Chadwell. So those are the two that Rexrode is putting out there right now. What do you think?
It makes a little bit more sense than the bigger name guys. Why would you? Yeah, it's an SEC program, but it's, as Wilkie said, it's arguably the toughest job in the SEC for opposite reasons than it would be if you were replacing Nick Saban in Alabama. Why would
they're going to have to go cheap? They don't have the pay scale that the other institutions in the SEC has. So it would make sense to go after those guys, but I would look after somebody, Wake Forest went after Dave Clawson for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's because he can build programs in high academic institutions, and he's proved it at the Power 5 level. He's kept a consistent winning program at Wake, which J-Dub, as an alum, you can understand. There's a cap on wins year in, year out, and Clawson has done a great job there in maintaining some kind of excellence at Wake Forest, and that's how Vanderbilt needs to approach this too. They need to find somebody that has experience at a high academic institution and has had success with that. So if I'm giving the athletic department at Vanderbilt direction, that's how I would go.
And you got to think about it this way. You keep mentioning high academic institution. Wake Forest is not a school that's known for its athletic prowess, and it makes its money on the type of students it brings onto campus, and that's what Vanderbilt is. Vanderbilt is the cream of the crop as far as academics in the SEC. That they're known for their smart folk, and I think you got to have that perfect combination of a recruiter, someone who can motivate a kid on a different level, and you got to have that experience. You've got to go cheap, but you can't go too cheap because then you've wasted that hire. So I think Charlotte's head coach is a great opportunity for Will. I think him being a Tennessee native is a plus. But I mean, you almost have to try to find that diamond in the rough of the second tier coordinators out there, someone that's a name brand that can help bring some people to Vanderbilt. Because right now, people aren't coming to Vandy for the football team.
And I brought up David Shaw and Pat Fitzgerald for one reason, in case Vanderbilt decides they're going to pay for a coach.
Right.
Because that's the direction I would go if they're going to pay the market level for a head coach. Because both have had success at the Pac-12 and Big Ten level. And let's face it, the SEC is the Mac Daddy of all the Power 5 conferences, and Vanderbilt wants the matter, I'm sure.
And here's the rationale from Rex Road, according to sources, as to why it happened now. Athletic Director Candace Story-Lee wanted to make sure committed football prospects who can sign early on the 16th of December are fully aware of the situation and aren't blindsided right before the signing period. They're still going to try to preserve as much of the class as possible while they're looking for a new coach. Right now, obviously, you look at the numbers courtesy of our friends at 24/7. They're 12th in the SEC, 46th nationally, and their average rating for a prospect is just under 85.
Okay, that makes some sense.
Yeah.
I kind of get the thought process there. I can buy that. Speaking of Vanderbilt, while we're on the subject, the big name story of the weekend, when Vanderbilt kicker Sarah Fuller made history by kicking off the second half of the Missouri game.
This is a pretty cool moment.
And we should add that young Miss Fuller was the only kicker on the Vanderbilt roster for that game. It's a shame they didn't score a touchdown or were in field goal range at any point in time. But you got to like seeing that. This is probably something a long time coming, isn't it?
Love it.
And she's a soccer player, walked right in. You can tell by the way her form on the kickoff. I mean, it's a big thing for girls watching today, or women watching today, young women, whatever you want to call them, that I think this is a big step for Vanderbilt. But I agree. I wanted to see her kick a field goal. I really wanted to see her on the field again. But yeah, I think this is a huge story, and I'm happy to see it come out of the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, I have a little different perspective on this, and mine's more along the lines of Darren Ambrose, the women's soccer head coach at Vanderbilt, when he said that, look, the reason why she's on the team is we have no men's soccer team. Mm-hmm. And someone from the men's soccer team would get priority over this. And, I just wish for her she was able to kick an extra point, a field goal. Yep. I don't think she would have kicked a field goal because I think she was just going to be there for extra points and the kickoff. And I think the kickoff was, I just wish she would have at least got it to the 10 or to the 5 or whatever. The kickoff that she had that squid out of bounds at the 30 may have been strategic, but it was terrible optics for her. It was terrible optics for her going out there. Look, this is an elite level goalkeeper in women's college soccer.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's going to be remembered for that. She's going to be remembered for kicking the ball out of bounds and running off the field. And I just don't think yes, maybe it's progress. I don't know. I don't think that displayed progress if this is the route we're going.
It didn't go out of bounds. It was recovered by Missouri on the 35.
Still, it was a squib kick. Let her kick it down the field, and let's see how good that leg is. I just didn't like the optics there, as far as her kicking the way that she did. Again, I would love to have seen her at least kick an extra point. I think that's what her role was going to be. I just didn't like the optics when she got out there and actually performed.
Well, maybe that's another reason why Derek Mason was fired. I'm just saying. I mean, if that's the choice that you make, you have to think about the optics, and they weren't thinking that far down the road. They just said, we need a squib kick. Hey, Sarah, kick it. And I don't think they thought that deep about it. But I do agree with you. Optics-wise, let her show what she's got, because right now she looks like a kicker without a leg. When she's got a crazy goals against average playing for the women's soccer team in Vanderbilt. I mean, she's an elite athlete. Let her show it. But it's still, regardless of that particular optic, it's still an advancement because she's the first female to play it down in a Power 5 school.
Okay, why don't we move on here to some game action, because it's been a busy weekend. It's pseudo rivalry week. On a normal year, this would have been the week that every single one of the big rivalry games were played, just about. However, due to the pandemic and some jumbled up scheduling, we got a few games. Some good rivalry games. Probably the one that stood out to me was Oregon State knocking conversation out of the Pac-12 by
it was Fog Bowl revisited.
Got to the line quickly, handed it off to Jamar Jefferson into the end zone, touchdown.
It didn't stop the Ducks from staging a huge comeback, outscoring the Beavers outscoring the Ducks 22-7 in the fourth quarter to come back and take a 41-38 win. This pretty much eliminates the Pac-12 from any kind of consideration for the college football playoff, doesn't it, guys?
Absolutely. I mean,
we're assuming they're going to get in.
Yeah, they were a long shot to start with.
Well, that long shot's gone now.
I've just, I looked at, if you're the TV production crew for this game and you're setting up your cameras and you all of a sudden have all of that just kind of drift in. And I think that really the symbolism of this game for me was the one moment where you had the quarterback, at least looking at the high camera, wind up and throw a really long pass, or maybe not, and all of a sudden you end up cutting to the ground level and the quarterback had kept it and he'd gone forward for a gain. So in a way, I think it personifies everything that we've seen this season across the board when it comes to college football. But Oregon State now 2-2, Oregon at 3-1. And I'm still locked into the television aspect, the TV production aspect of trying to shoot something like this, call a game like this, and it's just the madness involved with this game in particular.
Well, I got to you guys know how I feel about rivalry games.
Oh,
I mean, you just cannot predict them. And this was one of them. I guess. And the setting was fantastic at Research Stadium and Corvallis. I mean, come on, late November in Corvallis. This is the type of weather you get. But Jamar Jefferson was the man. And he was a stud, and that quarterback for Oregon State as well came up huge when he had to. And again, it's the epitome of a rivalry game when the little brother is going up against the big brother, and the big brother has a chance to do something special. And hats off to Jonathan Smith and the Beavers for putting together a game plan like that and sticking to it and getting past the Ducks. I think this is the first time the Beavers have beaten the Ducks in 3-4 games. They were due.
And Jamar Jefferson was 37 yards away from Tristan Gebbia's passing numbers. I mean, if that tells you something.
Tristan Gebbia, thank you.
226 for Jamar Jefferson. Tristan Gebbia was 23 of 37 for 263.
And got injured on the second to last play of the game. His replacement, Chance Nolan, scores on a quarterback keeper with 33 seconds to go. His very first play as a college football player.
How about that?
Nolan will try to sneak it, and he pushes in.
That's what these rivalry things are all about.
That's awesome.
Some other games of note this week. The one that impressed me, because I got to catch a few games yesterday afternoon, Notre Dame looked really impressive, beating a tough North Carolina team 31-17 in Chapel Hill.
First and goal, Williams, easy.
Good performance by the Irish defense. Ian Book, a solid game, and Kieran Williams, 23 for $124 and 2 TDs. Notre Dame's looking like one of the chosen four here at this point, aren't they?
Good to see you there. Glad you got to watch your North Carolina football there, Phil.
Now, I will have to go on record and said several weeks ago that I did not trust Ian Book. I didn't trust the Irish to be a top 4 team.
Nope.
But that has not changed a lot.
Nope.
But the team as a whole, the defense is keeping them in games. They're doing the things they need to do to stay in the top 4. I still don't trust Ian Book.
Nope.
I still don't think that Notre Dame has a chance. You play a team like Alabama, but that's just me.
Right there with you.
I'm starting to become a believer in Ian Book, and that front seven of Notre Dame is legit.
Yeah.
Because they went up against two of the best they went up against probably the best running back duo in college football, and held them just under 100 yards total. And that's that is fantastic. And this Notre Dame team, I think there's other talented teams in the top 4, but they might be the most complete team in the top 4 right now. You've got a quarterback that's having a special season. You do have some really good running backs there at Notre Dame. Receivers are not going to wow you. All they do is catch the ball. And a defense that's on the elite level. So of the top 4 we're thinking of, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame might be the most complete team of the 4. But that's for argument's sake.
No, I would agree with you there. It's something I don't know that I ever thought I would really say, because I'm not a particularly large fan of Notre Dame, but they were and have been impressive and steadily gotten better over the course of the season.
And the game against North Carolina, look, I thought it was going to be a shootout, to be honest with you.
Everybody did after that first quarter.
And, Notre Dame can play any type of ball game. They can play a shootout, but I think that would have favored Carolina. But it turned out to be a much lower scoring type game, much more grinded out type game after the first quarter, which really favored Notre Dame and that one. And and what I mean by complete game too is, look, Notre Dame has had the shootouts and Clemson in particular, and have prevailed. They've had the tough, grinding, gnawing type game where your jersey is torn and dirty, and they've survived that too. So that's kind of what I mean about a complete team. They can handle any type of situation.
And then you look at Ian Book's season stats. I mean, quietly, he's got 157 for 249 and almost 2,100 yards passing. He's completing 64% of his passes, and he's got a QB rating of 148.9. So, like I said, when I just pulled that up, I was like, wow, it's quiet. He's not one of these flashy quarterbacks, but still, I mean, you put the game on the line. Yeah, he beat Clemson. Yeah, he beat North Carolina. But, I mean, can he compete in a national championship stage? And my jury's still out in my mind.
Hey, if Sebo Flemister ain't getting the ball, I ain't interested.
So the other teams in that big grouping that we were just talking about, Alabama in the Iron Bowl without head coach Nick Saban on the sidelines due to some COVID issues. To the surprise of very few people, Alabama didn't miss a beat. 42-13 over Auburn. Devonta Smith, a huge game. Mac Jones, 5 TD passes. What else is there really to say? Alabama, I think right now you're talking Alabama and then everybody else.
Yep. This might be the quickest Iron Bowl discussion we've ever had on the show.
And all that's left for Alabama is LSU at Death Valley, and we can expect the same kind of ball game when they get together in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
or actually this Saturday.
Yeah, this coming Saturday.
I mean, I think the one thing that my question is this with Alabama is that nobody's really hit them in the mouth yet, and how are they going to react if they're down like 2-3 touchdowns? What kind of quarterback from behind is Mac Jones? Can Najee Harris, put the ball on put the team on his back and carry them? You know what I'm saying? It's like, if they stay in front, they're going to obviously run away with things, but what happens when they get down? And I think that's going to determine to me, because I think Notre Dame, you got to think at Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. I mean, you put all four of those teams on paper, they're pretty gosh darn similar. And, it's going to depend on, I think, the way the ball bounces. I think that's why we lace them up every Saturday, right?
Yeah, they had a couple of close games early on with Ole Miss gave them a run, and Texas A&M pushed them a little bit. Both games that Alabama ended up winning, so they're not totally untested. It's just
the A&M game, that Texas A&M game back on October 3rd is nothing like the A&M team that is playing right now.
No,
they've gotten better. The Ole Miss game, it was matching scores basically. Ole Miss did not hit him in the mouth, but Ole Miss had Matt Corral had his best game of the year. That Ole Miss team was ready to play, but Alabama matched every score. So you really can't say that they were hit in the mouth. They were just, you expect that out of a veteran team like Alabama. Yes, it'll be interesting to see if when they get into, even when they play Florida, is Florida good enough in the SEC title game to get really physical with this Alabama team and lay a hurt on a couple of those stars?
This right now, it would be like that Russian sport where they're across the arm wrestling table from each other and they just do the slap as hard as humanly possible and see who flinches first.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way it is for me. And then it's always the skinny kid who's like 5'9" and $130 who wants to come up there and challenge the guy who's like 6 foot and 3 spins. And the first time he gets slapped, then you just see him kind of take those 9 steps backward and he absolutely passes out. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating. It's like that Russian slap sport.
Speaking of the Florida Gators, a big win for the Gators this week, 34-10 over Kentucky. And the return of the Kyle connection, Kyle Trask to Kyle Pitts, 3 touchdowns. Trask, another big game for him, 21 for 27, 256, and 3 TDs. All to the returning Mr. Pitts, who had 5 catches for 99 yards and looked basically unstoppable.
When he's healthy, he is a matchup nightmare.
That's true. And Florida right now is just tuning up for their date with Alabama. Yep. They got Tennessee on Saturday.
Not a game.
In Knoxville. You remember when that was a appointment television early September rivalry, and boy, how times have changed. And then they host LSU to close the season. So it's all about fine tuning now because you're going up against a couple of programs that are defensively challenged, let's just say,
yes,
and or evolving defensively, however you want to term this. And just don't get anybody hurt and get ready for fine tune for Alabama.
The other game in the SEC with some significance, Texas A&M, who's up to number 5 because they own a victory over the Florida Gators in a deluge at College Station. They slosh their way through a 20-7 win over LSU. Isaiah Spiller, the big gun for this game, 27 carries, $141, and a touchdown for Texas A&M, who had struggled with the weather, but did what they had to do to get the win.
I thought they struggled offensively throughout the game. It had nothing to do with the weather.
Yep.
But that defense is on the elite level, and that's why Texas A&M is 5th ranked in the latest AP poll, and probably will stay that way when the college football playoff poll is revealed later this week. Mike Elko is one of the top defensive coordinators in the country.
Absolutely.
And he's doing a great job with that A&M defense, and that's what kept LSU from actually having a better game.
And I agree with you too, Wilkie. I would love to see that Alabama Texas A&M game again now.
Yeah.
Just to see, because I think that defense has found its footing. It's fast. You have 11 hats on the ball everywhere it goes. It's unfortunate for A&M that they had that game the second of the season. But yeah, the A&M right now is playing lights out football, and they deserve every bit of that 5th ranking.
And think about it too. When they played back then, there was no spring practice.
Nope.
And now they've got a few practices in, and they're hardened up. And A&M is really looking good defensively.
LSU played 2 freshman quarterbacks. TJ Finley went 9 of 25 for 118. Max Johnson out of Oconee County High School in Watkinsville, Georgia, 14 of 22 for 113. Kellen Mond, who I imagine was getting yelled at through the deluge, 11 of 34 for a 105. So I imagine that he was getting his traditional earful from the quitter.
Yeah, his longest pass was 18 yards and had a quarterback rating of 58.3. So, yeah, not good.
Yeah, I don't know that we even really need to touch on any of the other SEC games. Georgia with a huge win, 45-16 over South Carolina in the former Georgia Assistant Bowl. Not much of a storyline there. The ACC, Clemson back on the field after a couple of weeks layoff and looked like they never left. Huge game for Trevor Lawrence, 403 yards, 2 touchdowns. Clemson rolls 52-17.
They're going to try their own flea flicker, and this one's going to work for a touchdown.
I just keep hearing, Dabo Swinney's words from the Florida State cancellation in my head. They just didn't want to play us.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder there, J-Dub.
Oh, you're welcome.
You know what? I kind of wish when Florida State and Clemson were battling for the Atlantic Division and for national championships, when they both were on the elite level, that Dabo and Jimbo had that kind of relationship, because that really would have made that rivalry sing. But it just doesn't really
have the same fight.
Not the same with Norvell and who can't win a game, and Clemson and Dabo, who wins every time. Yeah. I mean, I just wish some of that venom was around when both teams were at the elite level, when Florida State could compete.
Back in the 1860s, basically. Yeah.
Dabo did come off sounding kind of whiny, though. Why would Florida State back out of a game? And speaking of which, they also had to forfeit their game against Virginia this week with only a few hours' notice as well. It's been a rough couple of weeks down there in Tallahassee.
Well, when Virginia got down there was the understanding that might happen. So there was no surprises this time. There was communication between the two schools before Virginia headed down. And once they headed down, they kind of felt like this was going to happen, and it did happen. And there's no ill will between Bronco and Mike Norvell, and that there was transparency. But the ACC is not looking good as a conference wide with these things happening like that.
Nope.
And it just kind of leads to me that their policy just for COVID is just not as buttoned up as most of the other conferences are.
Nope.
The Friday testing, that's great. But when you don't have the results, should a team pay all that money to travel and bring the equipment down?
Nope.
I mean, that's what we got to figure out. And it just doesn't make the conference look good.
No, and they've been at it long enough now that they should have a good routine in place. It's not like this is something new.
Go ahead, J-Dub.
I was just saying, by this time you can't say testing is an issue because every team has had they know what's going on. But going back to the Clemson and Pitt game, that Notre Dame loss is going to be awful big for Clemson because as a team, Pittsburgh only had 24 carries for 16 total yards on the ground. That defense for Clemson is really, really good. And I think that loss to Notre Dame is going to come back to haunt Dabo. I think it's going to keep them out of the national playoff game. National championship game.
Oh, no. I think if Clemson and Notre Dame play in the ACC championship game, which it certainly looked like is going to happen at this point in time, it would take a big blow, Notre Dame blowing Clemson out before Clemson probably would not make the playoff. There's just that big of a defining line between them and their brand name.
But Virginia Tech may have something to say about that as they host the Tigers. And look, Virginia Tech, that program has been decimated with COVID-19 all year. But they seem to have gotten past that. And there's some good players on that Virginia Tech team. And you don't think, even with a limited amount of crowd, if there's a crowd at Lane Stadium, when they start pumping in Inner Sandman. You don't think it's going to have a
tunnel.
Yep.
You don't think that's going to have a little bit of an effect?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, Virginia Tech's 4 and 5 right now, but still, there's some good people on that team, and they have fought through the epitome of adversity this year when they play someone like NC State down like 28 people and still come away with a win. Right? Yep. It's just you just from an ACC fan standpoint, you hate to see what Tech has gone through, but man, have they put up a good fight.
And the other teams in the top 10, BYU doesn't have another game for a couple of weeks. Weird quirk in the schedule that they've already played almost a full slate of games, and then they play again toward the middle of December. And Cincinnati's game gets postponed this week. This is probably going to hurt the Bearcats. And also, speaking of Ohio teams getting their games postponed, Ohio State's game against Illinois also postponed. And potentially, due to the rules set up by the Big Ten, could potentially cost Ohio State a shot at the playoff.
I think it just costs them a chance at the Big Ten 12-14 championship game. I think they're just too good. If you have to include them in the CFP, you do. I mean,
until proven otherwise.
Yeah. For me, imagine the size of the stink that would be on top of the size of the stink of this season already if Ohio State wasn't included in the CFP.
Because they didn't play enough games?
Yeah.
And Coach
Ryan, Notre Dame, Clemson, Texas A&M, and Alabama in a playoff would it's your Final Four would raise a stink plus an even bigger stink after that.
Yes.
I agree. I can see Michigan probably trying to screw Ohio State by canceling their game with eliminating them out of the Big Ten championship game. I can see that happening. But remember, who runs the college football playoff? A certain network with 4 letters, and they want certain teams in that Final Four to guarantee a number that they have to achieve for any kind of credibility.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. I mean, that's why Ohio State will be in, and that's why the 4 teams that are there, they're going to do as much as they can to keep those 4 teams in.
Well, speaking of big stinks, do we need to talk about the Big 12?
Probably in the second half.
Go to the next block.
Yeah,
okay,
I was just
give it some time.
I was just going to say Cincinnati. This could cost them a chance to move up as well, even though it wasn't a ranked team that they were playing. Losing a game, they need every opportunity they can to blow people out and make an impression on the committee to get into the pick 6, which I think they will. Speaking of wrapping up to going to the halftime, I think that's what we'll do here. When we come back in the second half of the show, we'll hit on some Big Ten action. We will hit some Big 12 action. Plus, we'll talk about coaches and hot seats and give it a sliding pepper scale. How hot are they?
Nuclear.
All that and more when we come back for the second half of the review. You are listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
The OSG app is up and running on your Android or iPhone. Install the OSG app and listen to our podcast from college football, soccer, and lacrosse. What are you waiting for? Download the OSG app today.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Paterson takes the handoff, and he's in! Jaret Paterson, how about lucky number 7?
You have made it to the second half of the review. This is the OSG Sports College Football Podcast Week in Review, where we talk about everything that happened over the past weekend and some stuff that happened during the week. And before we get on to some games, John wanted to talk about this, and I think it's definitely worth talking about. And that's what happened at the University of Buffalo game this week, where we nearly had a college football rushing record. John, take it away from here.
Well, this was something that Wilkie and I looked at, and the thing is that Buffalo also was not the only team to put up 7 spins on the scoreboard this past weekend, and that's the scary part. And we're also talking about stuff outside the defense optional the Big 12-10. Louisiana,
how many of them had one guy put that many on the board?
Oh, I know. Louisiana put 70 on Monroe, but then you had Buffalo at home put 70 on Kent. Kent scored 41, so I'm sure that the over-under there was probably had at halftime. Jaret Paterson, 36 for 409 and 8 touchdowns. Are you blanking kidding me?
Patterson again on his feet, past midfield, and off to the races. Jaret Paterson, how about touchdown number 8?
Yeah, tied Howard Griffith's rushing touchdown record, NCAA record, with 8 touchdowns. You watch him run, man. That guy is the closest to Barry Sanders I've seen in a long time.
He was a bowling ball. A couple minutes of the game too. He could have broken the record.
Yeah, he could have. But I tell you, that kid, nobody could stop him on Kent State. They were at a loss, and just the start and stops and acceleration. Again, he reminded me so much of Barry Sanders out there, kind of similarly built, and of course I did see that Barry Sanders did tweet about him as well. So yeah, what a great game for him, and what a great talking point.
And you also had Kevin Marks Jr. get almost 100 yards on the ground. So they had 2 players get 500 yards on the ground. That's insane.
Marks ended up finishing up the game because Buffalo coach Lance Leopold pulled him. Leopold pulled his star running back midway through the fourth quarter, and thinking that they wouldn't get the ball again, and Kent scored pretty quickly, and all of a sudden they did. But Leopold had no idea that he was that close to the record until he was asked about it after the game.
10 total touchdowns on the ground for Buffalo. That's just insane.
It's silly.
It's mad.
And really, the last few years, Buffalo has been really good in the MAC. I mean, that's probably your gold standard program in the MAC right now. And Lance Leopold has done a great job. I didn't hear
Leopold.
Thank you. He's done a great job of recruiting to that level and getting the type of athletes he can get to be competitive in and winning in the MAC, and really doing a great job for that Buffalo program. And it's tough for them to really get attention with the Bills in town because the city loves that franchise, but they're doing a good job.
You got to think about the MAC. Central Michigan and Ball State both got wins. They're both at 301 as well. So they're putting some good numbers on the board in the MAC.
Maction, baby.
We might as well go from offense to offensive.
Thank you.
Moving over to the Big Ten.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about UMass. Okay, never mind.
That's a whole different subject for the bottom of the barrel column later in the week.
Yep.
We talked a lot last week about Northwestern and how they were on the right track and moving forward, and then all of a sudden they showed up to play Michigan State, and to put it politely, they laid a bit of an egg.
Go green.
No, they laid the entire dozen in the produce section. It wasn't just the one.
They picked a wrong time to have a flat football game.
Yep.
I watched a little bit of that game, and it was just.
Why?
Because I was flipping between 3 different games. Because at the same time, Alabama was destroying Auburn and Clemson was destroying Pitt. So I was looking for alternatives.
Okay.
And Peyton Ramsey had an awful day. Awful day. He was 21 of 43 for 210 and 2 interceptions. QBR of a 35.8. Yeah, that was just a bad day to run into a buzzsaw. And Rocky Lombardi had a great day.
They just looked like a big, plodding, slow Big Ten, struggling to score points kind of a team in a kind of a game. The loss probably takes Northwestern out of any kind of discussion in the top 10. I'm not sure exactly how they made it into the top 10 to begin with.
Yeah.
But they did. Indiana got a win as well. They beat Maryland 27-11. Michael Penix got banged up for Indiana, but a good win for the Hoosiers as they stay on track this season, and they're 5-1.
And they're looking. They're on track to get a really good bowl game as well. And if, for some reason, Ohio State can't fulfill their obligations going to the Big Ten title game because they don't have enough wins, Indiana's poised to take that seat.
Yeah, good defensive performance by the Hoosiers. They held Maryland to just a field goal until late in the game when Talia Tagovailoa threw a 43-yard
God bless
touchdown. Yeah, he threw a 43-yard touchdown pass with about a minute and a half to go to get it to an 11-point or get Maryland to 11 points. Otherwise, Indiana was in total control. A good win for the Hoosiers.
And you got to think about speaking of a good win. First win in Happy Valley. Penn State got a win over Michigan. What in the world is going on in Big Blue country?
Well, and you know that 99% of the country outside of those two markets just kind of wanted the whole field to just kind of open up and have both teams just sink into it. So,
with flames shooting out.
Yeah, where it's like, can you root for mutually assured destruction for a game like that? So
it's awful.
Yeah. That was not pretty football, and it still isn't pretty football, even though one team actually won.
Hey, Rutgers won.
Yes.
Nice win for Rutgers, 37-30 over Purdue. Again, not a great season for Rutgers. They're 2-4.
Hey, anything that Greg Schiano has been doing has been better than where they've been.
Exactly. I was about to say the key word there is progress.
Yes.
The key word's Jersey tough.
Yeah.
That's what he brought.
Yeah.
We'll move on over to the Big 12 and probably the feature of the feature games. Iowa State gets the win over Texas.
See, Wilkie, you didn't jinx them.
23-20 in Austin.
Kick on the way. No good. And Iowa State wins in Austin for the first time since 2010.
Is this the death knell for Tom Herman?
He's been a zombie. He's been dead man walking all season. So if Vanderbilt fires Derek Mason and, South Carolina got rid of Muschamp, why in the world are the Longhorns holding on to Tom Herman? I don't get it.
The buyout's cost prohibitive, and I just don't think Texas can stomach that right now. I don't think there's anybody waiting in the wings other than Urban Meyer, I guess.
Yeah.
That they feel is qualified to be the head coach of Texas. And that's, they think pretty high and mighty of themselves in Longhornville. And I just don't think that they're going to make the move right now. I just don't think it makes much sense.
Matt Patricia's available.
Yeah, he is available.
Well, that came out of left field.
It did. Yeah, it did come out of left field. But who wants the job too?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough job. And I'll tell you this: if Texas A&M gets into the Final Four for somehow, then I think that's when a move will have to happen. because A&M. The reason why they joined the SEC is they figured they can overtake Texas and be the program in the Lone Star State.
And that would make it official.
Yeah, that would.
The bigger story here to me, though, Matt Campbell getting Ohio State, or why did I call them Ohio? Iowa State, the unquestioned lead in the Big 12. It's looking a lot like we're going to see Iowa State playing Oklahoma in the championship game. Can't say enough about the job Campbell does. Iowa State has been in contention and in the top 15 or top 20 teams year in and year out for the past couple seasons.
And they're going after their first conference championship since 1912 when they won the Missouri Valley. And so that's a long drought.
And
108 years.
We've talked a lot this year about quarterback running back tandems, and you can't ignore Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. I mean they put up a great game on Saturday, and Iowa State is rolling right now. And
if Breece Hall, he had a really good game, but he didn't crack 100 yards for the first time all year.
Yep.
If he had a average game, then I think you might want to start talking about Breece in the Heisman Trophy race. Because he was leading the country in rushing, and that was a national TV game, and the country would have seen Breece Hall and probably would have talked about him a little more.
Yep.
But with the performance he had on Friday, I just don't see that putting him in the Heisman Trophy conversation.
He's a second-tier candidate.
Yeah, if the school wants to do something by 30 days, has September, April, June, and November, by Tuesday, the buyout for Tom Herman would be a little over $15 million.
Yikes.
Well, that ain't nothing compared to the Quitters buyout, which is 53.
But we won't go there.
We won't go there, yeah.
The other big team in the Big 12, the Oklahoma Sooners, their game got postponed as well against West Virginia in West Virginia, which I think probably could have been a pretty good matchup. But barring anything weird happening between now and the mid-December, all the way up to December 19th, I think we're looking at Oklahoma and Iowa State playing for pick six possibilities. Neither one of them, I think, are college football playoff worthy. Would you agree?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got, teams like Oklahoma State struggling with Texas Tech, Baylor upending K-State. Yeah, there's nobody else worthy in this conference besides Oklahoma and Iowa State right now.
Want to get into something here as we kind of have covered most of the games. Interesting conversation with Trevor Lawrence after the Clemson win over Pitt, when he more or less went on record and said this might be his last game playing in Death Valley.
Well, when you're honored on senior day and you're not a senior, I mean, I think that it's kind of on the wall, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it can't get much more obvious than that.
Nope.
But the question is, will he actually follow through on it if the New York Jets end up with the number 1 draft pick?
Oof.
How's he looking green?
Go John Elway. Go the Elway route, or the Eli route. Seriously, do it. Do it.
And you also got to think about this, that if teams know that he doesn't want to play in New York, who knows what they'll sell the farm to get Trevor, like trade up to get him or whatever. I don't know.
I think it depends on the Jets keep their coaching staff.
There's no way Adam Gase survives this season.
As we're talking, they're down 10 to the Dolphins at home. Yes, to your Dolphins, Phil.
I'm sure Phil's okay with that.
Yeah, he is. As is most of the civilized world, I'm sure. But
there are lots of coaching seats that are hot right now.
I know a lot of Jet fans.
Yeah? That's right. Yes, you do.
And let's just say that is a very checkered, a very jaded fan base.
No.
Really?
Let's just put it that way.
I mean, how bad is the situation when you sit Sam Darnold and your backup quarterback is Joe Flacco?
It wasn't that they sat Darnold. It was because he was hurt.
Yeah.
For his own, whatever. The fact that your backup quarterback is Joe Flacco.
Super Bowl MVP.
Where's Vinny Testaverde? Damn it!
The 100.
What, 58 years old and probably.
He probably could still
again.
complete
John
more
Elway
passes.
is 60 years old. He could probably play a game and do really well for the Broncos today.
Yes, he could.
One other topic I want to hit on here before we wrap up this episode of the review, guys. Another bowl game bailing out on this season, the Pinstripe Bowl, will not be played on December 29th. It makes the 8th bowl game that has been canceled already for this season.
You know,
there's going to be more.
Yeah, it's going to be more. It's going to happen.
And with the political climate in New York City right now, there's no way that game would have been played.
Yeah.
Nope.
So,
well, imagine if you're San Jose State right now. Santa Clara County declaring that no athletic competitions will be taking place. Both them and the San Francisco 49ers are looking for other locations to play games.
Hey, they'll go to the 49ers are heading to Arizona, San Jose. You know, they'll find a place. You know, trust me, it'll get worked out one way or another. Someone's going to open up their doors and roll out the carpet. Things will get done if you're wanting to go down that road. So it'll be all right.
Yep. And it's not such a great loss if we lose 8 bowl games this season, because there's going to be a condensed bowl season at best. I mean, the games technically couldn't even really start until the weekend of the 19th. And you're trying to jam in 30 some odd games now in the span of 2 weeks.
ESPN events will make sure that whatever their programming grid is, it'll happen.
But then you look at the bowls that were canceled: the Red Box, Hawaii, Holiday, Quick Lane, Celebration, Fenway, Bahamas, Pinstripe. These are not marquee games anyway.
Yeah,
most of the bowl games in December aren't marquee bowl games.
It's programming. What you've done what you've basically done is you've canceled a TV show.
Truth be told,
but you still got your Florida bowls. You still got your bowls in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, and the city of Montgomery added a second bowl game as a transfer spot from one of the other bowls. So Montgomery is going to be hosting two.
I didn't know Fenway had a bowl game.
Yeah, it's a Fenway Sports property. And so Montgomery decided 2 days before the original date of their first bowl game that they're going to have another bowl game. So the city of Montgomery is going to have 2 bowl games this year. I mean, so it wouldn't surprise me, if like I said, you're canceling TV shows at this point, and you'll rearrange your schedule. You'll show some college basketball, and everything will be fine.
I find it interesting, since Phil brought up the Fenway Bowl that he was unaware of, and these bowl games that are being played in baseball stadiums. It's like that's a novel concept.
Yeah.
Has anybody saw the NFL back 40 years ago? When
Yeah,
we grew up?
Wrigley Field with the Bears.
Or
How about the old Met in Minnesota?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Or the Jets playing in Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm used to having the infield.
The Falcons played at Fulton County. I mean,
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Yeah. I saw Joe Namath as an LA Ram at Fulton County Stadium, attempting to play against the Falcons.
The Cardinals played at Old Busch Stadium.
Oh yeah, they did. Yep. See, and that's why, Wilkie. That's why, as an homage to you, that's why I broke this out today.
Nice.
The Battlehawks sweatshirt.
But it just boggles my mind that, what a novel concept. Let's play a college bowl game in a baseball stadium.
Yeah, I saw Mark Mosley kick for the Redskins. The football team against the Falcons in Fulton County Stadium. So got a chance to see Mosley there. So
the football team.
The football team. One last topic here before we wrap up the episode, guys, as we kind of close it on the end of the season. We're kind of getting a clear look at guys who could potentially be Heisman Trophy candidates. Who's your leader in the clubhouse, and who's your top 3?
Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is my leader.
Trevor Lawrence for all 3?
Yeah. No, I mean, Travis Etienne is in there. I think, you got to put Mac Jones in there as well.
Trevor Lawrence's hair, Trevor Lawrence's arm.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. I got Trevor Lawrence winning it, but Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and Mac Jones is my top 3.
Yeah, I'd go with T-Law. Then I would probably go with the quarterback at the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus.
Yep.
And then the quarterback at UAT. So yeah, those would be my 3.
Yeah, Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, Trevor Lawrence. Who's going to win it? You know, to me, the leader in the clubhouse is Kyle Trask, but he's got still some body of work to accomplish to impress some voters.
He's also got a couple of teams he's playing that he could put up some big numbers against.
Right. I think Trevor Lawrence, if he wins it, it's for body of work during his career.
Yeah. So
it's really between those two, in my opinion. But Mac, it would not surprise me if Mac Jones kind of shot up to the top when we get to that point.
Yeah.
Because of where he plays and what they can accomplish. But Trask and Trevor Lawrence are the two I can think of right now.
Well, see, that's why I put ATN in there, just because of the rushing title. I mean, you got to give him some love with that. You got to put him in the top 3.
Yeah,
he'll get the Peyton Award, and I think that's how that'll go.
Yeah, and for me, Trask is probably the leader in the clubhouse right now, with Mac Jones not far behind him. And I'll put a name out there that none of the 3 of you guys did, and that's Justin Fields from Ohio State.
Not enough games.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough games. I agree.
If he hadn't had so many games canceled, he would have had to put up monster numbers to even stay relevant.
Well,
and
he had the game postponed, not canceled.
That's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, but
Still,
not having the games on the field. I mean, that's going to hurt him as far as the Heisman voters are concerned.
Yeah.
And you still have the possibility of 3 more games for them, so that would put them at what, 7, 8 games?
7.
Yeah.
Who do you put as coach of the year?
Yeah.
I still like Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
Best coaching job? Yeah, absolutely.
Or Schiano for best coaching job.
Whether they're getting the Coach of the Year award, that's a different subject.
Schiano should get the honorable mention.
Yeah.
I think Pittman walks away with the SEC Coach of the Year. I think there's no question.
Yeah,
he should.
National Coach of the Year? Probably Tom Allen.
Put him in
Tom Allen. I like
Tom
that.
Allen will get a lot of votes. Yep. I think if Notre Dame runs the table, Brian Kelly's going to get some votes.
What about Jamie Caldwell, Coastal?
He should.
He should get some recognition for doing an amazing job down there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Hugh Freeze should be in the top 3 there too.
That lost NC State hurt.
It did hurt, but the way they lost, I don't think hurt quite as bad.
No.
I mean, they were competitive and should have won that game, and that bodes well for Liberty.
Yes, it does.
And it'll be interesting Chadwell and Coastal Carolina still have to play in the Sun Belt Championship game, which should be interesting as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wilkie and I have been talking about that game for weeks.
Yeah.
Like what I see there. You guys
got
anything else here before we wrap things up this week?
I think you hit it.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then I think that puts a bow on this episode. We thank you for tuning in. Make sure you look us up on social media at OSG Sports Guys on Facebook and on Twitter. And for that matter, you can find us at OSG Sports on YouTube. If you're watching this, then you probably have found the YouTube channel.
Yes.
Otherwise, you may have found us on Spreaker or Spotify or Stitcher or any number of other podcasting networks, including the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. You can download our phone app at OSG Sports. It's free. JW, your phone's keying out. So it's
Curse your technology.
Please hit us up. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you dislike, and if you got any topics you want us to talk about. For the entire OSG Sports team, I am OSG Phil. For OSG J-Dub, OSG Nelson, and Jay Wilkerson 16, we hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving week. And hopefully the holidays will be kind to you. We will be back again next week when there is going to be plenty more college football to talk about. Until then, take care, and we will see you then.
Like the voice you're hearing on this podcast? It could be on your production, too. Just go to goodpipesvo.com. That's goodpipesvo.com. And reach out to Steve Henderson on the Contact Us page. Go to the website, click on the Contact Us page, and then see what Steve's Good Pipes can do for your upcoming project.